Good evening. Let us begin quietly, not with many words, but with an intent. I would prefer tonight not to talk about healing as if it were an object to be examined, but to let healing be the consequence of a changed state of consciousness. Our subject is simple once the principle is grasped, but until then it may seem strange to ears, trained to beg, to plead, to promise. So I speak to you as one who has spent years, decades, in the actual activity of spiritual healing. What I say to you is not theory, it is demonstration. Again and again, I have watched grace operate as law when one fundamental shift takes place within, from asking God to act to knowing God as the action of being. Here is the quiet correction, and I give it gently, with love, with neither do I condemn thee in my heart. Never pray that God heal anyone. Never tell God what to do, when to do it, or for whom. That form of prayer is useless in spiritual work. Why? Because it denies the nature of God and the nature of your own being. Be not ye therefore like unto them, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. Matthew 6-8. If the Father already knows, what then is the function of your many words? Not to inform omniscience, not to persuade love to be loving, not to coax life into being life. Petition assumes separation. A God out there, a sufferer down here, and your words is the go-between. That is the misunderstanding we lay aside tonight. I and my Father are one, John 10:30. Not two, not near, not someday one. The one I that says I in you is the very presence of God as your being. There is not God in you. There is God expressed individually as you and as me. The life which is God is your life. The mind that is God is your mind in its true essence. Even this body, seen rightly, is the temple of the living God. If this is truth, and I assure you by long experience that it is absolute truth, to beg an external deity to come and mend what God already is would be to set up a second power, a second life, a second mind. It would be to say there is something other than God. That cannot heal. That confuses the channel. And so I give you a very brief creed. If you need one, don't beg, no. Grace flows through knowing. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:32. Notice the verb, not asking, not pleading, not repeating formulas, knowing. Knowing is an activity of consciousness, a quiet recognition, a beholding of what is, not a wish for what is not. When the Master faced disease, storm, hunger, he did not appeal to a distant power. He rested in identity. I have meat to eat that ye know not of. John 4:32. All that the Father hath is mine. John 16:15. He spoke out of oneness, and law fulfilled itself. Love revealed itself. Harmony appeared where discord had been believed. Now, because I wish you to succeed, I must be plain. Spiritual healing cannot operate through rote ritual or through the thought that you are manipulating divine energy. It comes purely through inspiration. Inspiration is not emotionalism. It is the inflow of divine awareness into a consciousness made receptive by stillness and purity of intent. Therefore, in these hours together, we will not expend ourselves in many words. We will practice. We will sit quietly. We will let the words speak within. And as we do, you will begin to sense, perhaps as a deep breath you did not know you were holding, Perhaps as a release from attention you did not know you carried, that there is a presence within you that does the works. I ask you to hold a single aim as we proceed, to exchange the habit of petition for the grace of recognition. When you are tempted to say, God, please heal me, or God, please heal this friend, stop, be still, and know I in the midst of me is God. Not a human I, not a personal ego cloaked in piety, but the one infinite I being itself as your very existence. In that knowing, prayer is no longer a transmission outward, it is a revelation inward. And that revelation, because it is law, does what no request could ever do. It fulfills itself as harmony. I speak with authority only because I have watched this again and again in homes, in hospitals, in quiet corners of the world, in the center of bustling cities. The same law operates when the same consciousness is present. The moment the sense of separation relaxes, the moment we cease telling God and begin acknowledging God, the scene changes, sometimes gradually, sometimes instantly, but always in accordance with the measure of awareness. And this measure grows as we practice. Do not be dismayed if your first moments of stillness seem empty. They are not. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not be busy and persuade. Be still and know. This is the orientation. We are moving from a world in which you imagine yourself a needy creature shouting across space to an absent creator into the kingdom within you, Luke 17:21, where creator and creation are one life. We are abandoning the superstition of two powers in favor of the revelation of one. We are laying down the arms of spiritual bargaining, and we are taking up the mantle of sonship. And in sonship, there is no fear, no lack, no broken law to be repaired. There is only the law fulfilling itself, because love is the fulfilling of the law, Romans 13:10. So let us set our intent. Throughout this session, we will return and return to the same point until it is not a point, but a presence. We will turn from words about God to the word that is God. We will say within, quietly, without fanfare, Father within, thou art doing the works. We will release our urge to ask. We will choose to behold. We will let the truth announce itself. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Luke 15:31. And should any of you feel the sting of correction at this, hear again, neither do I condemn thee. I am not here to censure you for the prayers you have prayed. I am here to show you a more excellent way, a simple way. Once the principle is seen, the practice is natural. And once the practice is steady, the demonstrations are inevitable. Do not complicate this. Do not run ahead. For now, take this single seed. Don't beg no. Let it take root in your quiet moments. Let it prune away some old language from your lips. Let it re-educate the heart. And as we go on, we will prepare the instrument through which this knowing can flow unobstructed. But already, even now, as we sit here, the law is present. The grace is present. The one is present. I and my Father are one. And from that oneness, all healing emerges. Now, before any word is uttered in the name of truth, before a single thought tries to shape an outcome, there is an instruction given by the Master, and it is procedural, practical, and inescapable for those who would witness grace as law. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Matthew 6:6. This is not poetry to admire. It is the method. Enter, shut the door, pray to the Father in secret. Then, and only then, is there an open reward. The open reward is healing, evident to the senses, harmony appearing where discord seemed to be. But the causative action is in the secrecy of communion. The closet is not a room, though you may have one. The closet is the inner sanctuary, where sense is hushed and self is known. Entering it requires no rites, no candles, no formulas. Spiritual healing cannot operate through rote ritual. It comes purely through inspiration. Inspiration visits the consciousness emptied of noise and hurry, the heart released from the desire to make something happen. Therefore, in this work, we do not pick up a technique. We lay down technique. We do not learn the right words. We consent to the word. We do not sharpen the blade of human will. We sheath it. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. And I add for your practice, be still and know I, in the midst of me, is God. Not a personal I, not a finite ego, but the one appearing as the very life of you. I must say this as plainly as I can, because it will save you years. You do not heal. I do not heal. No practitioner who has ever witnessed healing has healed a single person. I can of mine own self do nothing, John 5:30. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works, John 14:10. That is instrumentality. We become a transparency. We let God appear as the wholeness that is eternally present. If there is any praise to be given, hear the Master's deflection. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Mark 10:18. When you accept this, the strain leaves you. The burden to fix, to mend, to orchestrate outcomes drops off. Your sole responsibility becomes the preparation of the instrument your consciousness made clear, quiet, available. How do we prepare? We begin by doing exactly as instructed. We enter and shut the door. To shut the door is to close the latch on the sense world for a moment. Not eyes alone, but opinions, analyses, remembrances of other cases, the inventory of symptoms, the parade of fears. You do not need to deny them or wrestle them. Simply do not invite them in. Shut the door on comparison, on what happened last time, on what might happen next time. Shut the door on the very picture of the problem. You do not take a sick man or a threatened bank account into the closet. You go in naked, no labels, no stories, no bargaining chips. You are not there to speak at God. You are there to listen to God. Listening is not thinking. Listening is not arranging sentences to reassure yourself. Listening is receptivity to what already is true. When I sit to receive a call for help, I do not rush to say God is. I do not rush to say anything. I become still. I let the breath settle. I notice the impulse to start arranging true statements as if they were bricks to build a tower to heaven. And I release that impulse. I am not climbing. I am consenting. I am not mounting an argument. I am beholding. If words arise, they arise as the echo of presence, not as a tool to leverage presence. Often it is only this one recognition, silently voiced within, Father within, thou art doing the works. And then stillness. Sometimes there is a warmth in the center of the chest, a sense of largeness, a sweet relief. These are relatively unimportant. The essence is this: the sense of a separate self trying to get something accomplished dissolves, and the one is felt, known, acknowledged. Make it simple. Before any treatment, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes, enter and be still. If your mind offers problems to solve, thank it and let them pass by like ships on a river. Do not board. Do not chase. Do not fix your eyes upon the vessel labeled cancer or lack or loneliness. Look instead at the river itself, the flow of I that is God being. Let a single truth anchor you, not as repetition to convince, but as a window to see through. I and my Father are one, or all that the Father hath is mine, or the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Then pause. The pause is holy, because in it there is no human engineering, only presence recognized. Do not be deceived by the restlessness of the first attempts. Do not say, I cannot get still. You can. It is not an achievement. It is a relinquishment. Release effort. Release the agenda to heal. Release the subtle wish to demonstrate something to yourself or to another. If you enter the closet to prove your spiritual power, you have not shut the door. You have invited the ego in with you. Let your prayer be, if you need words, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done, Luke 22:42. And then let the sense of mine relax into the infinite I that is already doing its perfect work. I have watched again and again how this preliminary stillness changes everything. A woman once telephoned about a child fevered and listless. The temptation was to hurry to words, to soothe the mother with promises. Instead, we entered the secret place together. No explanations, no analysis. 10 minutes later, she called back, quietly astonished. The child had fallen into deep, peaceful sleep. The fever had broken. What happened? Nothing was done to a child. A door was shut. The Father, which sees in secret, rewarded openly. That is the law. Form this habit. Before you answer an appeal, before you read another page of truth, before you take on a task in the world, enter and be still. Short, frequent periods are better than long, strained efforts. Let the consciousness become accustomed to silence as the native atmosphere of prayer. If you are in a crowded place, shut the inner door for 10 seconds. If you are at your desk, set the hands in the lap and close the eyes for half a minute. If you are awakened in the night, do not reach for words. Reach inward. The closet is always available because the Father is always within. And keep your closet secret. Do not tell the world about your moments of sweetness. Do not parade your practice. The moment you make a display of your piety, you have stepped out of the closet into the marketplace. Thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Allow the openness to be God's doing, the secrecy to be yours. We are not here to build reputations. We are here to become transparencies. A transparency has nothing of its own to show. It is clear. Through it, light reveals itself. So let us adopt this posture as law for our work. No word before silence. No argument before beholding. No request before recognition. Enter, shut the door, be still, and know I in the midst of me is God. From that prepared quiet, whatever words come will be clothed in authority, not our own. Whatever activity follows will be governed by grace. This is foundation. On this, all else will stand. From that foundation of quiet, what is heard is not many truths but one, truth stated in many ways. It comes as a simple sentence with inexhaustible meaning. I and my Father are one, John 10:30. Not near, not allied, one. Do not relegate that to piety. Take it as law. Take it as the operative principle by which healing, supply, protection, and guidance become evident. There is not God in you. There is God expressed individually as you. There is only one I, infinitely individualized, speaking itself as your very life. The I that says I in you is the I that is God. When you feel after this and find it, you have touched the lever by which grace becomes law in experience. Paul says, for in him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. He is not describing a religious mood. He is describing ontology. Your being is not outside of God striving to approach God. Your being is God being self-revealed as individual identity. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? 1 Corinthians 3:16. This very body, so long treated as a private possession to be managed and medicated and worried over, is in truth the temple of the living God. Hear me. When you behold body as temple rather than as personal property, the sense of ownership that invites fear begins to dissolve, and with it the forms of fear that show up as disease. Health is not a prize conferred. It is an aspect of the one wholeness made visible through an instrument that knows its source. Now, let me draw the distinction that will spare you disappointment. Oneness is not a theory to be held. It is a presence to be realized. You may repeat, I and my Father are one, and accomplish nothing but fatigue if you have made it a creed or a charm. But enter that closet, let the arguing mind rest, and then let that sentence be a window you look through rather than a tool you wield. Do not try to feel something. Be still and notice. Is there an outside to the eye that is aware? Is there a border where God ends and you begin? In that very noticing, a softer breath arrives, a deep simplicity, the sense I am, before any adjective, before any condition, before birth and beyond time. Before Abraham was, I am. John 8:58. That I is not personal. That I is infinite. When this is not only adopted but felt, even fleetingly, the law is engaged and begins to fulfill itself. Then supply is no longer a problem with many moving parts. It is included in identity. All that the Father hath is mine. John 16:15. Not mine by conquest, mine by nature. If the Father is my very life, then the qualities of the Father, love, wisdom, abundance, form, function, are the qualities of my life. This is why the Master could say, take no thought for your life. Matthew 6:25. And in the same breath promise that all these things shall be added unto you as you seek first the kingdom of God. Matthew. Leodian Sandra Samphon. Seek not a thing. Seek the awareness of oneness. Seeking the kingdom is seeking the realized presence within, not reaching into a sky for favors. When the seeking is fulfilled as finding, when the kingdom within is consciously touched, things arrange themselves without effort, because order is inherent in the one. Someone asks, but how does oneness heal a disease? By law. The one has no opposite. The life that is God cannot include a self-destructive power and remain one. When the one is realized, even for a moment, the belief in two powers, truth and error, spirit and matter, God and disease, loses its hypnotic hold. The picture may change quickly or gradually, but it must change because the cause has changed. We are not adding God to a dilemma. We are beholding God as the substance in place of a dilemma. The Master did not amend laws of matter. He revealed the law of spirit. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. Healing is the work of the Father revealed as the Son, revealed as your very consciousness. When it is clear of separation, you will find along the way that distance thinking is crafty. It whispers, yes, yes, God is near, and then urges you to stretch out hands to an almost present deity. Reject that. Nearness is not good enough. Oneness is the law. The kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21. Not partially, not seasonally. Within means identity. Within means the center of you is God's self-knowing, and you are that self-knowing individualized. Therefore, when an appearance knocks at the door with its story of lack, do not run outward to chase provision. Return to center and rest in identity. I and my Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. I live, move, and have my being in God. Then be still. Let the hush come. In that hush, ways and means appear as natural expressions, often simple, sometimes surprising, always lawful. Do not imagine that there are many eyes competing for God. There is only one eye. That eye is the light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. John 1-9. That eye wears your face and mine, but it is indivisible. When praise tries to fasten itself upon a person for a good work, hear the Master. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Mark 10:18. When blame tries to fasten itself upon a person for a failure, remember, though, we shall develop this further, that the errors of sense are impersonal mesmerisms and not identities. Your task is not to magnify persons. Your task is to magnify the I that is God, to let that I announce itself as the only life of all. Set your expectation here. Then, and you will be spared the oscillation between hope and despair. Healing is not a divine intervention into a forsaken corner of creation. Healing is the natural outcome of realized oneness. The sun does not decide to shine because you called. It shines because it is sun. You do not command the light. You cleanse the window. Oneness is the sun. Your realized awareness is the clean window. Clear the pain, and light is inevitable. Enter the closet. Hush the sense of twoness. Behold the one eye, and then go about your day. You will find in the going that Christ in you, the hope of glory, Colossians 1:27, is not a figure of speech, but the very law of your being, announcing itself as harmony. Abide in that, and you will understand by living it that love fulfills its own law. If you would keep the window clear, hear now the condition the Master himself lays down, not as a moral ornament, but as spiritual procedure. And when ye stand praying, forgive, if ye have aught against any, that your Father also which is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. Mark 11:25. That is not a suggestion, that is law. The flow of grace is lawful, and forgiveness is the legal prerequisite. Do not be misled by sentiment. This is not about being nice. It is about removing the one obstruction human consciousness can set against the already present action of God. Love is the fulfilling of the law, Romans 13:10. If love is absent as a realized attitude, the law does not operate in your awareness, even though it remains eternally itself. The wire is perfect. Corrosion at the contact prevents the current from lighting your lamp. Clear the contact, and the light that has never ceased shining appears. Therefore, before you attempt a single word of treatment, before you rehearse a single truth, enter quietly and search the heart, not with analysis, not with archaeology, but with a simple willingness to be cleaned. Ask within, is there any man or woman toward whom I harbor resentment, criticism, judgment, or subtle superiority? If a face appears, do not argue. Do not dress it up. Let the simple prayer become your law. In my heart at this instant, I release all from criticism, judgment, condemnation. I loose you and let you go. I set this world free, and to seal it, let the Christ speak through you. Neither do I condemn thee, John 8:11. Do not say it as a pious phrase. Say it as an act of authority in your own consciousness. In that instant, you have removed the dam from the stream. You may discover that the one needing release is the one in your mirror. Very well. Extend the same grace at once. Neither do I condemn thee. Not indulgence, not license release. You will never rise into healing work on the ladder of self-reproach. There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Romans 8:1. Condemnation of self or another is the subtle affirmation of a second power. It insists that error has selfhood. It does not. We will take up the impersonal nature of evil more fully, but for now obey the law. Forgive. It is the first turning of the key that opens the inner door. Build this as a deliberate practice. When you stand praying, when you sit, when you lie awake in the night, let the inventory be simple and swift. No envy, no jealousy, no greed, no lust, no pride of intellect, no self-righteousness, no ancient accounts kept in secret drawers. No desire to see another corrected before you will love them. Clean the shelf. It is not your task to grade the offenses or to measure what was done to you. Your task is to remove from your own field every thorn that would catch on the robe of the presence as it passes through. If you need a further word of scripture to steady the hand, take this. If ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Matthew 6:14-15. Hear the legality in it, not the threat. As you measure, it is measured to you. When you hold another in bondage, you seal your own door from within. I speak from many years of watching the difference between words offered from a heart still keeping score and words offered from a heart that has let go. The very same sentences, the very same verses, the very same quiet can be present, and yet in one case nothing moves, in the other life flows. Why? Because love is the fulfilling of the law. Do not attempt to move law without love. Do not imagine that an accurate recital of truth will make up for an unforgiving spirit. When you stand praying, forgive. Make this the first move on the field every time. Your human mind will protest. It will say, but they were wrong. Or, if I forgive, they will do it again. Or, I cannot forget. You are not asked to ignore wisdom in human relations. You are asked to release judgment in spiritual practice. In this inner court, there are no prosecutors, no defendants, only the judge, who is love and whose verdict is always acquitted for lack of person. If outer amends are in order, if you have aught against any and can set it right, then obey the parallel instruction. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Matthew 5:23-24. But whether or not an outward conversation is possible or wise, the inward reconciliation must not be delayed. Lay down your case. Lay down your clever reasons. Lay down your rightness. The channel must be clear. I recommend you form a simple ritual secret, consistent, uncompromising. Before the hush, whisper within. In my heart at this instant, I release every individual, institution, memory, and image from criticism, judgment, and condemnation. I release the past. I release imagined futures. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Luke 23:34. Neither do I condemn thee. Then be still. Let the silence verify what the words declared. If another wave of names arises, release again. Do not proceed to treatment until there is a felt softening, a sweetness, a readiness. You will know. The breath lengthens. The chest is light. The mind is unarmed. Love is present. Then, and only then, are you in condition to say, Father within, thou art doing the works. Notice also the forms of unforgiveness that wear religious clothing. Self-righteousness is unforgiveness in a choir robe. The desire to be the corrector of your brother is unforgiveness with a textbook under its arm. The subtle satisfaction of having been right all along is unforgiveness, smiling politely. Strip these disguises. Remember the master's measure. Judge not, that ye be not judged. Matthew 7:1. The moment you take delight in the error of another, you have taken your hands off the plow. Turn gently back. Neither do I condemn thee. Let love restore the single vision. Only then can you judge righteous judgment, the seeing through to identity, not the measuring of appearances. One more thing, and it is exceedingly important. Forgiveness is not a feeling you must manufacture in order to pray. It is a law you consent to before feeling arrives. The feeling follows obedience. Choose the release. Affirm it as truth, and then enter the closet. Do not wait to feel sentimental warmth toward the one who wronged you. Obey the law. When ye stand praying, forgive. The warmth will come as a byproduct of the unblocked flow, and even if it does not come at once, the law will operate, because you have removed the obstruction in principle. Take tonight this uncompromising rule into your practice. Never proceed with spiritual work until you have forgiven specifically, deliberately, universally. If that takes 10 seconds, good. If it takes 10 minutes, good. But do not go on without it. Do not try to shine a light through a shade you refuse to lift. Lift the shade. Love is the fulfilling of the law. Love opens the channel. Love as forgiveness, as non-condemnation, as simple goodwill to all that lives, is the condition in which the one that already is can reveal itself without hindrance. Then grace, which has never ceased being grace, rewards openly what was made right in secret. And you, transparent and unburdened, will watch the law fulfill itself, not because you ask God to act, but because you removed what in your own heart denied, that God is already the life of all. Having lifted the shade of condemnation, we are ready to truly look at what stands before us, and to judge not by the picture but by the presence. The Master's directive is exact. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment, John 7:24. Righteous judgment is not a nicer set of opinions. Righteous judgment is vision that has been freed from the hypnosis of persons and effects, freed from praise and from blame, so that truth may announce itself as the only cause and the only presence. Begin here. Refuse personal ownership of good. If harmony has appeared in your body or your home or through your hands, do not attach it to your name. Deflect it at once where it belongs. Hear the Master. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one. That is God. Mark 10:18. That is not modesty. That is metaphysics. Good belongs to God, and God alone is the substance, cause, and activity of good. The moment you accept personal credit, you unknowingly install a personal opposite, and then you live afraid that tomorrow the good may depart. Let good remain impersonal and eternal by acknowledging the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30. Then praise becomes safe. It passes through you like wind through a reed, and only the music is left. Likewise, and this is the great freedom, refuse personal ownership of evil. Do not fix sin, fear, disease, or lack upon a self and call it identity. Scripture names the false mentality that parades as power, the carnal mind, Romans 8. Because the carnal mind is enmity against God, Romans 8-7. Enmity is not a person. The carnal mind is not your mind or mine. It is the impersonal suggestion of a selfhood apart from God, a universal mesmerism, a no thing claiming to be something. The Master, meeting hatred, said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Luke 23:34. That is the voice of impersonalization. He would not grant to ignorance the dignity of identity. If they had known the Father, they could not have acted so. Therefore, he withheld condemnation, and in that non-condemnation, love fulfilled its own law. When you look upon a sufferer, withhold your label, withhold your pity that affirms a broken self, withhold even your impulse to improve a human picture. Instead, practice righteous judgment. Know Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. Know Christ in them. Know only Christ. Say within, not to the person, but to consciousness, what God hath cleansed. That call not thou common. Acts 10:15. Or let Paul speak through you. Henceforth know we no man after the flesh. 2 Corinthians 5:16. Do not know them after diagnosis, after history, after reputation, after yesterday's failure. Know them after Christ. Behind the appearance, there is only God expressing. Behind the behavior, there is only life-seeking. Its lawful outlet. We do not excuse behavior. We silence the hypnotism that would legislate identity from it. This clears resistance from your work. If no one is personally to be praised and no one personally to be blamed, you are left with only one activity: witness truth. It is very simple. When the telephone rings, you are not called to fix a person. You are invited to behold God. When a memory of injury intrudes, you are not called to remake a past. You are invited to rest in the eye that never was injured. When a symptom clamors, you are not called to do battle. You are invited to judge righteous judgment. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, Ephesians 6:12. Flesh and blood, the appearance, the story, the body, as personal property are not your arena. Spirit is your arena. Identity is your arena. The kingdom is within. Make this an inner method. First, as we have said, enter, forgive, be still. Second, deflect, praise in advance. Even before any good appears, acknowledge where all good belongs. Father within, thou art doing the works. I am transparency only. Third, depersonalize the claim. Say within, no man is sick, no man is afraid, no man is sinning. All such are suggestions of a universal carnal mind, and that mind has no law, no cause, no creator, no continuity. It is not person, not entity, not power. Fourth, behold, the true Christ is the identity of this one and of me. I and my Father are one. Only one I. Only one life. Then be still. Let the hush verify your words. You may feel in those moments a loosening at the center, a lightness around the picture, an ease that says the argument is over. That is the sign, relatively unimportant, but tender, that you have ceased wrestling with shadows. Do not return to the picture to see if your prayer worked. Return to oneness and abide there, and watch what happens without you. The open reward comes because the private vision has been corrected. Love fulfills its own law. Take a hard look also at your tendency to exalt good persons. The temptation is subtle. You will find some healer, some teacher, some benefactor, and say, oh, what a great soul. Stop and correct yourself. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but God. When you impersonalize good, you are saved from idolatry and from disappointment. When you impersonalize evil, you are saved from hatred and from despair. In the center where both praise and blame dissolve, you find the Christ standard by which alone you may see. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Matthew 5:48. Perfection is not a human grade. It is the nature of God revealed as you. To judge righteously is to let that nature be the only measure. Someone will ask, but if there is no one to blame, will evil run riot? Not when love is present as law. When you remove blame, you do not remove consequence in the human scene. You remove resistance in your own heart so that the one law may act unopposed. The Master answered the blame-seeking question with this: neither have this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. John 9:3. No human scapegoat, no cosmic fault-finding, only an occasion for God to be God. That is righteous judgment. That is impersonal seeing. Hold this now as your daily seeing. No person is a savior. No person is a sinner. Only God saves. Only the carnal mind sins, and it has no identity. Therefore, drop your stones. Drop your laurels. Lift your eyes. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Then, in quiet humility, stand aside and let the Father within do the works. In that clear atmosphere, truth appears of itself, and you will witness again what has always been true. Christ in you, Christ as you, Christ as all, perfect, whole, indivisible. Having refused the hypnotism of persons and effects, we come now to the most delicate and powerful movement in spiritual practice, if movement it can be called. It is the holy pause. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. not be still and advise God, not be still and persuade matter, be still and know. In this pause there rises no petition, no argument, no effort to reach a remote deity. There is only awareness present, indivisible, self-sustaining. Let thy words be few, Ecclesiastes 5:2. In fact, let them be none until the inner word has announced itself. Enter as you have been taught, secretly, humbly, with forgiveness already accomplished. Then, surrender even the beautiful truths you have been rehearsing. This is not the time to build a case. This is the time to let the case be dismissed for lack of person, lack of second power, lack of any law opposed to God. In that willingness, you will notice something so human, so tender, that we speak of it only to prevent you from mistaking it for the presence itself. The breath settles, the pulse eases. Often there is a warmth, sometimes in the hands, sometimes about the solar plexus, occasionally a quiet in the forehead as if a distant engine has been shut off. Such signs are relatively unimportant. They are weather along the way. Do not stop to admire the weather. Press through to the sky. In the hush, there is no sending of thought. There is no beam projected to a person across town or across the hall. There is no imaging of tissues, and certainly no command issued to a body. The body is the temple of the living God. It obeys the law of the presence revealed as consciousness. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Habakkuk 2:20. The temple is within. The earth that keeps silence is the sum of appearances, suggestions, memories, and fears. When they quiet, even a little something ever present becomes evident to itself. It is not a sentence you invent. It is a word that announces itself. Thou art whole. Hear me. This is not a message to a sick person. It is the truth of being, speaking as your awareness. It is the eye of your being bearing witness to itself. The Master phrased it in many ways to many hearts. Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Matthew 9:22. Go thy way. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Mark 10:52. Woman, thou art loosed from thine infirmity. Luke 13:12. At the pool, wilt thou be made whole? Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. John 5-6-8. But behind every utterance was the same reality. Wholeness is. Wholeness is the nature of God. Therefore, it is the truth of God's appearing as individual being. The holy pause is the interval in which consciousness consents to that fact without adornment, without petition, without defense. We do not speak truth to change matter. We witness truth, and appearances yield to the law of what is. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. 2 Corinthians 4:18. In the pause, you are not tinkering with the temporal. You are beholding the eternal and letting the temporal take instruction from it. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. If there is to be any speech, it is inward, and it is not yours. It is more like recognition than declaration. It is more like yes than like please. And often there is no speech at all, only that gentle, authoritative awareness that erases the need to say anything. Thou art whole. Beware of a subtle counterfeit. The mind, anxious for results, will try to affirm its way into peace. It will grip a phrase and repeat it as a lever to pry open a door. Do not do it. Affirmations, rightly understood, are forthcoming windows into identity, but in this pause there is no tool. There is only resting. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30-15. Take no thought. Let no counter thought rise to argue with a symptom. Do not bargain. Do not visualize. Do not time the silence with your wristwatch and then peer out to see if anything has happened. Do not plant and then dig up the seed to check its progress. Let the knowing complete itself in its own holy rhythm. I can tell you, from many years devoted wholly to this work, that there is a point sometimes after seconds, sometimes after minutes, when the pause confirms itself. You will know it by its absence of strain. It is not a peak. It is a plain. It is not fireworks. It is daylight. The sense of a problem is not conquered. It is outgrown. You are not made confident that something will happen. You are made quiet in the presence that already is. If a phrase rises, then it is gentle and unforced. Peace, be still, Mark 4:39. Or it is that ancient benediction to your own awareness, thou art whole. Then the work is done, whether or not the picture has yet rearranged. The cause is established. The law is free to fulfill itself. Only after this completion do you move outward. If a word must be spoken, it will be given you in that same hour, Matthew 10:19. If an act is needed, it will be obvious, simple, free of drama. There will be no compulsion to telephone the patient and assure them. There will be no desire to instruct the body. You will feel as the Master felt walking from one village to the next available, but unhurried, empty of self and full of presence. He restoreth my soul, Psalm 23:3. Restoration is inner before it is outer. Let it be so. Make of this pause a way of life, not an emergency measure. When the day presents its small unrests, a crowded street, a difficult letter, a memory that bites, use them as summonses to your inner temple. Stop, breathe, if you must, but do not make a rite of the breath. Wait until the chatter dims, until the sense of two powers goes thin, until the word announces itself again in whatever form it chooses. Often it will be that simple assurance that requires no object, no subject, no predicate. I am. And when it wears the tender garment addressed to your present concern, it will be this: thou art whole. Hold this carefully. Healing transpires, not because you asked God to become something God was not, nor because you mastered a technique, but because in the pause, you consented to what eternally is. The window was cleared. Light, which never ceased shining, flooded the room. We cannot boast of that. We can only keep the pain clean and the house still. Be still and know. Let love fulfill its own law in you, in those who come to you, and in the invisible communion that unites us as one I, one life, one indivisible. Wholeness now. From that pause, something simple and living often presents itself, a word of identity, not a plea for improvement. These are not wishes. These are not bargaining chips in prayer. These are names of being spoken within that open a door and then compel us to stand aside. I am the bread of life, John 6:35. Hear it as the Master meant it, not a metaphor for carbohydrates, not a promise that something from outside will be delivered to an inside that lacks, but the revelation that sustenance is the nature of the I that lives you. When you take that into the heart, it ends asking, for you have conceded that supply is identity, not event. The instant you speak it, let it lead you into the hush. Abide. Bread has not to be attracted. Bread is being. So too, I have meat to eat that ye know not of, John 4:32. Say it quietly, not to declare superiority over the world's provisions, but to acknowledge that invisible sufficiency answers visible need. This meat is consciousness itself, life as your life, appearing as wisdom, as energy, as right action, as form suited to the moment, whether that form is nourishment for a body, clarity for a mind, or an avenue of employment in your affairs. The phrase, rightly used, becomes a window. Look through it, not at it. Let it open upon a presence. The senses cannot catalog, the markets cannot ration, and time cannot exhaust. And when the window opens, do not chatter. Eat, that is, rest, and let sufficiency feed you from within. All that the Father hath is mine, John 16:15. Hold it as share, not borrow. Or hear the Father to the elder Son, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Luke 15:31. You are not an orphan seeking crumbs from a distant table. You are not a petitioner at a locked door. If you must use words at all, take this as your law and then put the words down. To say, all that the Father hath is mine, is to admit the end of spiritual poverty. It is to acknowledge that life, intelligence, love, health, and supply, because they are the nature of God, individualizing as you. If fear rises, do not prolong the declaration as if the length of speech could earn an answer. Simply return to the fact, I and the Father are one. Therefore, sufficiency is the fact of my being. Then be still. Guard yourself here against the ancient misuse of holy words. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Matthew 6-7. Repetition becomes vain the moment you imagine that syllables persuade God, or that your many words could manufacture reality. A statement of truth is a door, not a lever. Walk through it. Do not stand at the threshold, rattling the handle. Say, I am the bread of life, and then consent to be fed by what that means. Say, I have meat the world knows not of, and let your thought grow quiet enough to taste it. Say, all that the Father hath is mine, and close the case. The court of consciousness needs no further argument when identity has been entered into evidence. Understand also that wholeness is one. Do not plan to use these truths for health today and for supply tomorrow, as if spirit ran separate departments. Is Christ divided? 1 Coríntios 1:13. The life which is God is the life of your body, and your body is the temple of the living God, 2 Corinthians 6:16. The intelligence which is God is the intelligence of your decisions. The love which is God is the atmosphere of your home and work. When you affirm identity, you are not setting forces in motion in one corner and neglecting another. You are resting in the indivisible, and the indivisible reveals itself in whatever form the hour requires. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Added means appearing where they already exist in principle. Therefore, let your practice be brief in speech and long in silence. Begin as we have learned, quiet, forgiving, unarmed. If a word of identity is given, receive it. Do not decorate it. Do not squeeze it. Let it open you. Remain until the sense of two powers dissolves. until asking has disappeared because sufficiency has established itself as fact. Often, when fear still presses, it is useful to let another line steady the hand. My grace is sufficient for thee, 2 Corinthians 12-9. Grace is sufficient for health, sufficient for supply, sufficient for every appearance that suggests a second cause or a second law. In that sufficiency, you will find yourself taking no anxious thought for the morrow, Matthew 6:34. And in that very lack of anxiety, provision appears in ways no anxious mind could have planned. You may ask, how often shall I say these? As often as the living word appears, no schedule, no quota, no meter that turns prayer into performance. There will be days when a single I am fills the horizon and needs no companion. There will be others when bread and meat and all that the Father hath rise, each in their turn like bells sounding the hour. Let them ring you into silence again and again. Out of that silence, steps are ordered without strain. Out of that silence, the body unclenches. Out of that silence, ideas appear like spring water where yesterday there was only stone. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. Not I shall not want after many tries, but I shall not want because the shepherd is presence and the flock is his own being. Take tonight this discipline. Speak identity, not desire. Let a short living statement open the door, then abide. Do not prolong the word when the word has taken you. Abide until the yes of being dissolves the wish of humanhood. Then go your way, quiet, unhurried, without announcement. The open reward will bear witness, not that you have found the magic sentence, but that you have yielded to what always was. I in the midst of me is God. Therefore I am the bread of life. I have meat the world knows not of. All that the Father hath is mine now. Let us now make this very simple, very definite, so that none of you mistake inspiration for vagueness. There is an order of practice. There is a way to enter, a way to stand, a way to be still so that grace, which is always present, may operate lawfully through a clear consciousness. Not ritual, God forbid that we should adopt any rote, but a holy sequence that respects the law the Master taught. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Matthew 6:6. Take this as both symbol and instruction. First, become still. Close the outer door literally if you can, inwardly if you cannot. 2 or 3 minutes of quiet listening. No words to start. Let your breathing find its own ease. Let the senses settle. Do not begin by telling God anything. You have nothing to tell omniscience. You have only to consent to be an instrument. Let thy words be few. Ecclesiastes 5:2. In this opening stillness, you are not resolving a problem. You are making room for presence to announce itself. Here inwardly, Father within, here am I. Then wait. Second, forgive. Do not pass this step. And when ye stand praying, forgive if ye have aught against any. Mark 11-25. This is not pious sentiment. This is law. In your heart, release every man, woman, and child from your judgment, those near, those far, those alive to sense, and those long gone to memory. Name no one aloud. Simply say within, neither do I condemn thee. John 8:11. I release you into God as God. Include yourself. Do not carry your own failings into holy ground. If a face rises that tightens your chest, you have not finished the step. Stay here. Breathe in love's impartiality until the knot loosens. Do not proceed double-minded. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1-8. If you find yourself still rehearsing grievances, stop the practice. Go back and make peace within. Then return. Third, impersonalize. Clear the lens of praise and blame. Say within, why callest thou me good? There is none good but God, Mark 10:18. Any harmony that has appeared is the Father doing his own works. I can of mine own self do nothing, John 5:30. Then strip evil of personhood. Call it what Scripture calls it, the carnal mind. Enmity against God, Romans 8-7. A universal suggestion of apartness, not a self, not a power. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, Ephesians 6:12. No man is my adversary. No woman is my patient. The appearance on either side, good to be bragged upon, evil to be feared, has no law in it. Only God is law. Let this correction lift from your sight the hypnosis of persons and effects. Fourth, realize oneness. Not as poetry. This is your operative law. Say within with reverence, I and my Father are one, John 10:30. Only one I hear. Only one. Life being itself is my life and is the life of all who appear in my circle this hour. In him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. Pause on this until the sense of two diminishes. Do not try to feel something special. Consent to fact. The ocean does not work to be wet. It is. So is oneness. Fifth, whisper identity. If a word is given one or two, only let it be a window, not a lever. I am the bread of life, John 6:35. I have meat to eat that ye know not of, John 4:32. All that the Father hath is mine, John 16:15. Speak it once, perhaps twice, and then look through it. The bread is being. The meat is invisible sufficiency. The inheritance is now. Do not multiply words. The moment the word opens the vista, close your mouth. The living word does not need your echo to be true. Sixth, enter the holy pause. This is the heart of the period. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46-10. Not be still and imagine improvement. Be still and know. Here, no petition rises. No mental beam is projected to any person or part of the body. If anything appears within, it is not yours. It is the word announcing itself. Often it is this: thou art whole. Do not grab it. Receive it. If nothing announces itself, do not be anxious. Rest in the simple light of oneness without syllables. Peace will steal upon you like dawn, unhurried, inevitable. Seventh, release outcome. This is law. Take no thought for the morrow, Matthew 6:34. Do not outline the way harmony must appear. Do not check the picture to see if anything happened. Leave the field to God. If gratitude rises, let it be wordless, like warmth through an open window. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. John 14:27. Abide a breath or two longer in that peace, then in the period. As to timing, do not turn this into a stopwatch exercise. The entire period will often run 7 to 12 minutes. Do not push it beyond its natural completion, and do not truncate it in impatience. End the very moment peace is felt. That peace is your inner benediction, the sign not to be worshipped, but to be obeyed, that the law is free to fulfill itself openly. Thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Matthew 6:6. If peace has not come, You have moved too quickly, or you have carried a grievance across the threshold. Return at once to forgiveness. Stay there until love bathes the heart without remainder. Then you are ready for the next step, but not until then. Let this order be your constant companion. Morning, when the world is quiet. Midday, when the world presses. Evening, when the world would linger. Use any of these as your appointed altar. But never rush, never bargain, never plead. We do not ask God to become God. We consent to God being God through a clear instrument. The sequence is the clearing. The grace is the action. My grace is sufficient for thee, 2 Corinthians 12-9. Sufficient health, supply, wisdom, relationship, protection, not parceled out, not earned by many words, but revealed when obstruction is gone. You will discover, as this becomes your way of life, that the steps grow swift and interior. Some days you will close the door and find forgiveness already accomplished, impersonalization already established, oneness present as the very air. On such a day, a single whispered word of identity will drop you into the holy pause, and the period will complete itself in a few minutes. On other days, you will sit finishing the second step while the minutes slide by. Do not judge. Do not compare. Keep the order. Keep the heart clean. Keep the practice secret. And if ever you sense in yourself the flutter of two minds, the desire to hold a grievance and to be a transparency for love, stop. Admit the conflict. Return to neither do I condemn thee. Return to love is the fulfilling of the law. Romans 13:10. Return until one mind is present, until only one eye abides. Then go your way. Say nothing to the world of your inner work. Let the open reward speak. Not that you have mastered a method, but that you have yielded to the one. There is a precise inner sequence that lets grace operate lawfully through a clear consciousness. Walk it humbly. Keep it clean. And watch quietly as without asking, without outlining, without strain, the Father within doeth his own works. One picture is worth more than 10,000 words. One demonstration, rightly seen, is a truer teacher than volumes of theory. Let me show you, then, how this law works when a hand is laid upon a common hour and turned heavenward, not by petition, but by knowing. These are not trophies. These are windows through which the same light that is in the midst of you may be seen acting as law. The first case came in the late afternoon, when the body is apt to be tired and the world to press. A woman telephoned sharp distress along the spine, breath short, fear rising with each shallow inhale. There was urgency in the human voice, but there is no urgency in God. I did not ask God to act. I did not promise her relief. I entered the closet. Enter into thy closet, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Matthew 6:6. Close the outer ear. Open the inner. I sat quietly, and the order we have rehearsed took me. First, stillness. No words. The breath settled of itself, as a lake grows even when the wind ceases. Second, forgiveness. I did not carry another's fear into the sanctuary, nor my own impatience. And when ye stand praying, forgive. Mark 11:25. I released the world from my judgment doctors. I had once blamed relatives. I had once defended. Neither do I condemn thee. Third, I am personalized. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but God. Mark 10:18. And this pain, was it a person? No, not her pain, Not my problem, only a universal suggestion of a second power, the carnal mind without law, enmity against God. Romans 8-7. I and she were not two ends of a wire. There is only God being itself. Then, oneness. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. Only one I hear, only one, life appearing as life. I did not project this truth to a spine. I rested in it. A word of identity was given just this. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. Not one for breath, not one for ease, not one for the government of life, moving its temple in harmony. I spoke it once into the heart, then let go. The holy pause opened, not like a door swung wide, but like a mist that quietly forgets to veil the hill. No petition, no command to tissue, only this unforced inner announcement, as quiet as a thought never spoken. Thou art whole. I do not know how long I sat, perhaps 6 minutes. Peace came, that quality which needs no advertisement. The sense of a problem was thin. Presence was weighty. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. John 14:27. That was the end of the period. I left the outcome to the Father. Take no thought for the morrow. Matthew 6:34. A little while later, the telephone sounded again. The voice was softer, astonished by its own ease. It loosened, she said. I do not know when. I fell asleep for 20 minutes, and when I woke, the breathing was free. Hear this with righteous judgment. The first sign was not the body's adjustment. The first sign was peace. He giveth his beloved sleep. Psalm 127-2. The rest was lawful consequence. The Father within did his own works. John 14:10. There was no healer, no patient, only God revealing wholeness through a cleared lens. If you had asked me in that hour what I did, I could only say, I did not. I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30. We measured the success not by the clock, but by the felt. Presence. And presence, being all, took care of form in its own way. Now another face, another form of distress, no less piercing. A man came to the door near evening. The look in his eyes was not bodily pain, but the strain of a home stretched thin and finances jangling like loose wire in a storm. His words tumbled, talk of a notice from the bank, a rift at the table, a son angry without knowing why. He asked, in his way, for a fix to many surfaces. I could not grant it. We do not patch appearances. We do not bargain with effect. We return to cause. We sat. No counsel, no plan, not even a prayer about money or about peace in a household. I entered the closet again and quietly invited him to join me there, silently, inwardly. The same order held: stillness, forgiveness. It was not accidental that forgiveness took longer in this case. Old injuries paraded by the name of a partner who had once cut a corner, the sound of a father's sharp word 50 years ago, the heat of shame over a debt unpaid in youth. These are not history. They are current knots in the instrument. We stayed until they loosened. Love is the fulfilling of the law, Romans 13:10. When love filled, the law could act. Impersonalization followed naturally. No man was his adversary. No bank, no boss, no relative. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, Ephesians 6:12. Supply was not a person's favor to be earned. Discord was not a person's will to be conquered. Then oneness established itself like the tide. In him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. Life was not outside our circle to be invited in. Life was the circle. A word of identity arose in the midst. I have meat to eat that ye know not of. John 4:32. I did not teach him to chant it. I let it feed us. Meat is satiency invisible to sense, appearing as the right form in the right hour. Then the pause, a widening hush, no outlining, no vibrating pictures of checks in the mail, only a clear, interior assent to what is. Peace, be still, Mark 4:39. It came less like a bell, more like a floor you had forgotten was under your feet. We ended there. We spoke little. He went his way unguided by human advice, guided by the very presence that had stilled the sea of his thought. The next day he wrote, not in triumph, but in quiet detail. He woke with a simple direction to telephone a man he had not spoken to in months. Not a scheme and amends, they spoke. And in the making of peace, an introduction occurred to another opportunity. A small, steady contract. Nothing showy. In the house. Without effort. A conversation softened. His son's anger unwound when he apologized for an old pattern learned from a grandfather neither had ever met. Order appeared, not because we asked for order, but because consciousness revealed itself where confusion had been presumed. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Added means the form that corresponds to the formless sufficiency already present. Do not miss the lesson. The measure here was not dollars, not signatures, not even harmony at the table. Those were evidences, beautiful, yes, but evidences. The measure was the felt presence. The cause was the realized oneness. When the heart rested in I have meat, meat took form. When love forgave, law fulfilled. There was no practitioner's genius applied, no sleight of thought, only transparency, only the Father within doing his own works openly after seeing them first in secret. Let me speak plainly so that you will never be tempted to take praise or accept blame in this ministry. If ever a voice says, you caused this improvement, correct it at once. Why callest thou me good? God alone is good. Mark 10:18. If ever a voice says, you failed, correct that too. No person can succeed or fail at revealing what is. We can only keep the window clean. We can only abide by the order, keep the heart free of condemnation, stand in oneness, and wait in the holy pause until the word bears witness to itself. Thou art whole. Then leave the form to follow. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. John 14:10. Carry these illustrations into your own closet. When physical distress clamors, do not argue with flesh. Enter, forgive, impersonalize, realize, and be still. The first sign may be sleep, a loosening in the chest, a quiet that surprises like shade at noon. Permit that to be enough. The form will take its cue. When the world shouts of bills and rifts, do not trade shouts. Enter. Let I have meat the world knows not of. Turn your gaze from ledger to life, from faces to the face within faces. Then watch, without watching, how guidance walks in on its own feet, how provision arrives by paths your worry could not discover. Thus you will learn what the Master meant when he said, take no thought. Matthew 6:25-34. Not carelessness, consecration, not passivity, interactivity, rightly ordered. Demonstrations, then, are not prizes you win for praying hard. They are the natural flow of grace through a consciousness emptied of fear and filled with love. Keep yourself transparent. Keep the practice secret. And when the open reward appears, touch it lightly and pass it on. The glory is His. The law is His. The works are His. And we, one with Him, rest in that oneness until the Word, ever ancient, ever new, whispers again into the silence, "Thou art whole." Now, let us seal this with a simple commissioning. We do not conclude a talk. We begin a way of life. This work is not to be confined to an hour with a teacher, or to those moments when the human scene breaks loudly upon you. This must become the cadence of your day, secret, brief, fresh, and faithful. Enter into thy closet, and thy Father, which seeth in secret, shall reward thee openly. Matthew 6:6. Better 3 or 4 short periods in which inspiration breathes than one long sitting in which effort pants and imagination labors. Let your morning begin with quiet. Take a few minutes at midday to close the door of sense. Let the evening draw you back into the sanctuary. Pray without ceasing. 1 Thessalonians 5:17 does not mean many words. It means many openings to the word. A handful of holy pauses scattered like seed through the day will harvest more than a single forced hour. Fresh is the rule, forced is the warning. Let the well refill between cups. God's secrecy is law. Take this not as quaint counsel, but as the Master's protective statute. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. Matthew 6:1. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Matthew 6:6. And when the work bears fruit, see thou tell no man. Matthew 8:4. This is not embarrassment at holy things. It is the conservation of spiritual power. Do not speak of treatments. Do not recount your inner practice, neither to seek approval nor to give a thrill. Let the open reward speak if it must. Even then, touch it lightly and pass it back to God. The moment you parade the secret labor of the heart, you divide the mind, and a divided mind cannot heal. Keep the current underground, and it will spring up as rivers of living water, John 7:38, where and when the Father wills. Maintain love as the only climate in which law can act. The world will test you in this at once. A sharp word will be offered. A petty injustice will glance your way. A face you thought forgiven will revisit the doorway of memory. In that instant, remember our order. Neither do I condemn thee. John 8:11. Release. When ye stand praying, forgive. Mark 11:25. Do not wait till later. Release in the very breath of impact. Bless them that curse you. Pray for them which despitefully use you. Matthew 5:44. Not because they deserve it, but because love is the fulfilling of the law. Romans 13:10. Love is not weakness. It is the only legal channel of grace. If you find a knot still in the heart, do not go on to any other step. Sit with neither do I condemn thee until the knot is gone. Then grace will know its own path. Watch always for the twin thieves, pride and discouragement. Should praise come in your heart or from another's lips, correct it at once. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but God. Mark 10:18. I can of mine own self do nothing. John 5:30. Should resistance come, a stubborn symptom, a delayed provision, correct that too. I can of mine own self do nothing, and I am not asked to. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus 14:13. Do not take praise. Do not accept blame. Impersonalize both. Pride scatters the power. Discouragement clogs the channel. If you feel either rising, return at once to forgiveness, then to oneness. Be not weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Galatians 6-9. The law is sure, the season is God's. Carry the refrain as breath carries life. I and my Father are one, John 10:30. Walk with it down the street. Let it be the quiet beneath your words at work. Let it ride with you in the car. Let it tuck you in at night, not as a chant to coax feeling, but as the recognition of fact that ends all asking. One eye, one life, one law. Where you are, God is the very life of you. Christ in you, the hope of glory, Colossians 1:27. Let this awareness be your atmosphere. It will check the impulse to react. It will soften the tone before the sentence hardens. It will make room for wisdom to enter where habit once rushed. Now the charge. Become a quiet place in your community through whom grace continually flows. This does not mean becoming a public mystic, a dealer in wonders, or a talker of secrets. It means to be the still point in your home, your office, your street, the one whose presence does not add to the noise. Ye are the light of the world, Matthew 5:14. Light does not explain itself. It shines. Let your light so shine, not by testimony, but by transparency, that men may see the works and glorify your Father which is in heaven, Matthew 5:16. Keep your windows clean, no criticism, no gossip, no anger rehearsed, no self-pity nursed, no pride in accomplishments, no despair over appearances. If an emergency calls, answer, then go back into silence. If none calls, rejoice. The power is never idle in a transparent heart. Let there be discipline but not strain. Morning, midday, evening, simple pauses. Keep them brief and alive. Keep them secret. Keep love. Keep the mind single. If ever you detect two minds in you, stop. Return to, neither do I condemn thee. Return to the one, and then go your way without fanfare. The Father within will do his own works, John 14:10. My grace is sufficient for thee, 2 Corinthians 12-9. It is sufficient for this day, for this body, for this task, for this world as it touches your doorstep. Beloved, take up this life not as burden, but as benediction, live as a clear, loving transparency. Keep the practice secret and steadfast, and you will find that grace silently, lawfully, continually flows. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4-7. Now go in that peace and be it.